Hi, Jim. It's Bruno from the Chronicles of the Crimson Hound channel. I do have a question for you. Actually, sort of two. It's about the Wightchester book. Um, so, Wightchester is, of course, your new role playing book adventure for a lot of D20 based systems. And I wanted to ask you, I've noticed when I put it next to other books on the shelf, it happens to be a bit taller and not as wide as most big role playing books. And I wanted to ask you, this is maybe a very specific question, but why this choice of format? Did it somehow, was it a decision because of the choices you made and how you wanted like the space to be distributed in the book? Was it a layout decision? I was looking for the word. And also, it's kind of interesting how you encourage people to write in the book. Like every section, you have like these, you have like these places people can check, and this day and age where books are meant to be treated like this, like piece of art, coffee table book that you try to keep clean, like even like adventures, which were like supposed to be the ones where people kind of wrote in back in the day and kind of like they would be rough and tumble, like leaving the coffee on it or whatever. Even these days, adventures are like full color, sort of like deluxe books, like from a lot of companies. Where it used to be maybe only the main books were that, and then adventures were kind of like more black and white and stuff like that. So, what made you decide to go back to this format and not just like in the spirit, but even overtly and outright telling people, yeah, this book is meant to be written on, this book is meant to be scribbled, you're meant to leave notes, you can keep track of what's going on in the campaign. So I was just curious about your thought process, because it's a very interesting book. And thank you for taking a question. Have a nice day.
Right, so two questions. And if anyone else out there wants to send in a question in the same way, or wants to appear on the channel and answer a few questions, let me know. But, yeah. Wightchester, it is a hefty book. And I have made it to encourage people to write in it and to stick notes in it and to stick post-it notes to pages and so on. Yeah, some of that is the design, some of that is what I encourage people to do, and you kind of ask why in a lot of ways, and refer back to how things used to be. A lot of times if you buy second-hand gaming books or boxed sets, you'll find evidence of what people used to do with them. I got a very old copy of a Red Box Basic set some time ago, and it had people's character sheets and some graph paper with some dungeon stuff scratched on it and so on. And it was just really interesting to see the detritus and remnants of someone else's gaming career in there. Same thing happened when I bought an old copy of GDW's Traveller 2300, and in a lot of ways that made it more interesting to me. So there's an aspect of that I think has disappeared as we've gone for the more art book, big, heavy, expensive object, where it's as much about owning the book and the artwork and so on as it is using a game book as a practical thing. And part of the reason I started the Grim Game project is that there is so much on my shelf that is just there as a collector's item or a reference book, because I'm constantly learning and changing and incorporating ideas and discarding other ones, and I wanted to get back to the game book as a use object, like dice. It's not just there to look pretty, it's there to be used. The other thing is that when researching for Wightchester, often the only book people had in their houses was a Bible, and I've got a very old family Bible, not from my family, but from a family that ended up incorporated into mine. And it's not just a Bible, and it's not just a sacred book. The family would record their births, marriages, and deaths in the book. It was all manner of other things as well as a Bible. It wasn't just this sacred set apart text to only be brought out for religious reasons. It was a living document that told the story of the people and the family that owned the book. So part of it was also, I wanted Wightchester to be that. It's meant to be a changeable, adaptable, modifiable record of what your characters, what your players do within the world, and how it might change it, or how it has an impact from session to session. So in the most basic terms, like I have, in every location there's a list of what's in there, the enemies and the useful items, and then you can tick those off as you go. So if you then later return to that location, or end up chased in there by the undead or whatever, and you go around looking for useful items, well, if you already looted that location, you're going to be shit out of luck, really. Or if you burned it down, it's gone. So the idea is to create a kind of a persistent and changing world, something that is designed to be modified, like the US Constitution, I suppose. It's meant to be amended. So Wightchester is meant to be a living document that's not just a reference, but also a record of what you do. The other thing you asked was more of a technical question. Wightchester is printed on A4 paper, which is the standard printer document paper here in the UK, and standard for a lot of books and so on. And that's why, basically. It's also cheaper to print in Europe on A4 because A4 is so ubiquitous. So A4 is 8.27 inches by 11.67 inches, and that's an awkward number because here we use the metric system, whereas US letter, like Scarlet Heroes here is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. And so if I hold the one in front of the other and try to line it up crudely, which is difficult when you're holding it, you can see that there's not much difference, but there is some difference. And I think A4 is closer to the golden ratio, the golden rectangle. And the other great thing about A4 is if you halve it in size, A4 becomes A5, A5 becomes A6, and so on. And going the other way, double size is A3, double again is A2, and so on. But really, because it's cheaper. That's why.